Good evening, I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Here are the top stories tonight. Putin calls out US for pressuring India to cut energy ties with Moscow. And Canada and Mexico should not be export hubs for other countries, says the US. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called out the United States for pressuring India to cut its energy ties with Moscow. Speaking in New Delhi, Putin pointed out that the US still buys nuclear fuel from Russia for its own power plants. And if Washington can purchase Russian fuel, he argued there is no reason India should not be able to do the same.
This is Putin's first trip to India since the Ukraine invasion began in 2022. It comes just months after Washington slapped a 25% punitive tariff on India over its purchases of discounted Russian oil. India is now the biggest buyer of Russian crude shipped by sea since Western sanctions began. And despite all the pressure on Moscow, the US and the European Union still buy Russian energy, including LNG and enriched uranium. The EU does plan to phase out Russian gas by late 2027. Trade between India and Russia jumped from $13 billion in 2021 to nearly $69 billion last year, driven mostly by India's energy imports. But it fell to over $28 billion between April and August as India cut back on Russian crude.
Now, United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer warns that Canada and Mexico must not become export hubs for China, Vietnam, Indonesia, or other countries. He says evidence of this behavior is already emerging in Mexico, raising fresh concerns about the integrity of the US-Mexico-Canada agreement.
Greer, who helped negotiate the deal during Donald Trump's first term, explained that several challenges remain. However, he noted that steps such as tariffs on foreign cars are beginning to tackle long-standing trade imbalances. When asked about the agreement's future, Greer said it remains in effect because Congress has enacted it into law. He also pointed out that Canada and Mexico continue to be the United States' largest export markets.
Now, those are the top news for tonight. More news coming up shortly after the break.
Belum tukar box lagi ke? Sebab nanti dah tak boleh nak stream on demand. Tak ada kontrak. Pasang pun percuma. Boleh menang barangan perkakas rumah dan pelbagai hadiah menarik.
Astro Ultra Box ni sangat senang gunakan sebab walaupun hujan, saya dapat menonton dengan tanpa gangguan. Saya suka stream Disney Plus dengan cucu-cucu saya.
Dengan box baharu, boleh stream pelbagai aplikasi yang dah termasuk dalam pakej anda. Tunggu apa lagi? Nak menang? Tukar sekarang.
Apa jua yang berlaku di sekeliling kita, pastinya ada punca dan kesan masing-masing. Faktor harga ekonomi, pengaruh politik dalam atau luar negara memberikan impak kepada kehidupan harian kita. Di Niaga Awani kami memberikan gambaran jelas melalui analisis mendalam, merentas pelbagai segmen dan latar belakang. Kami akan bantu anda untuk faham segalanya. Bisnes, ekonomi, pasaran, Niaga Awani 9 pagi Isnin hingga Jumaat hanya di Astro Awani.
Taiwan has publicly praised Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi for speaking out on peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, calling her remarks very moving. Meeting with the head of the Japan-Taiwan Exchange Association, Premier Cho Jung-tai thanked Takaichi, saying her words reflected justice and peace.
The remarks come amid a major diplomatic row with China after Takaichi warned a Chinese attack on Taiwan could trigger a military response. Beijing has reacted angrily, cancelling flights and blocking Japanese artists from performing. Cho said that in response to Chinese pressure, many Taiwanese have begun changing their travel plans and choosing Japan instead. Meanwhile, Taiwan is boosting its defenses with an extra $40 billion in military spending to counter China's growing threats. Japan is also strengthening its defences. Defence Minister Shinjiro Koizumi confirmed plans to deploy a medium-range missile unit to Yonaguni, just 110 kilometres off Taiwan's east coast.
The United States is considering expanding its travel ban, potentially raising the number of affected countries from 19 to over 30. The plan was confirmed by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, though she did not say which countries might be added.
Noem told Fox News that President Donald Trump is continuing to evaluate targeted countries as part of the review. In June, Trump signed a proclamation barring citizens of 12 countries from entering the US and imposing restrictions on travelers from 7 others, citing the threat of foreign terrorists and other security risks. The measures cover both immigrants and non-immigrants, including tourists, students and business travelers. Any expansion would mark a further tightening of US migration policies, coming after last week's shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington. Trump has also ordered a broad review of asylum cases approved under the Biden administration and green cards issued to citizens of 19 countries.
Donald Trump is set to take center stage at the 2026 World Cup draw in Washington later today. The US President will preside over the draw and receive the newly introduced FIFA Peace Prize presented by FIFA President Gianni Infantino. FIFA says the award recognizes individuals who unite people and inspire hope for future generations, though how the winner is chosen remains unclear.
The 2026 World Cup is the most logistically complex in the tournament's history, taking place across the US, Canada and Mexico next June. Teams will be split into 12 groups of 4 for the first time, with the top 2 and 8 best third-place sides advancing to a new last 32 knockout stage. The draw will also ensure the 4 highest-ranked nations, Argentina, Spain, England and France, will not meet before the semi-finals. Trump has made the World Cup a centerpiece of his second presidency, as well as next year's 250th US independence anniversary. He has also previously threatened to move matches from Democratic-run cities if he deems conditions unsafe.
The United States has endorsed the AUKUS Security Pact between Australia, the United Kingdom and the US, following a 5-month Pentagon review. The US Department of Defense says the agreement aligns with President Donald Trump's America First national security agenda and will proceed full steam ahead.
The Trump administration announced earlier this year that it was reviewing a 2021 deal for nuclear-powered attack submarines signed under his predecessor, Joe Biden. The AUKUS Pact aims to arm Australia with a fleet of advanced submarines from the US and includes cooperation on a range of warfare technologies. The submarine sales, set to begin in 2032, is central to Australia's strategy to boost its long-range strike capabilities in the Pacific, particularly against China. The deal could cost Canberra up to $235 billion over the next 30 years and also provides the technology for Australia to build its own vessels in the future.
Taiwan's government is defending a plan to suspend access to the Chinese social media app Xiaohongshu, also known as Red Note, for 1 year, citing security risks and a sharp rise in fraud cases. But the move has sparked accusations of censorship from the opposition, Kuomintang, who said banning the app was a major restriction of internet freedom.
Kuomintang's chairwoman, Cheng Li-Wen, accused the ruling Democratic Progressive Party of strangling free speech in the name of national security. Taiwanese authorities say Red Note has been linked to more than 1,700 fraud cases since 2024 and failed to provide data security guarantees. The platform has about 3 million users in Taiwan. It has yet to comment on the proposed ban. Taiwan has long warned of disinformation threats from Chinese-owned apps as Beijing steps up political and cyber pressure. Officials have also accused China of spreading influence through Western social media platforms, even while banning them at home.
Representatives for Chinese online retailer Shein are back in Paris court for a hearing on the French government's request to suspend the company's website for 3 months. Authorities found illegal items on Shein's marketplace, including childlike sex dolls and banned weapons.
Shein disabled its marketplace in France on November 5th after authorities discovered the illegal items, but its main site selling clothing remains accessible. France is seeking a minimum 3-month suspension, demanding the company prove its content complies with the law. The government has invoked Article 6.3 of France's digital economy law, which allows judges to order measures to prevent harm from online content. France has also summoned major internet service providers, Bouygues Telecom, Free, Orange and SFR to the hearing, asking them to block Shein's website.
The US military has carried out a strike on Thursday on a suspected drug boat in the Eastern Pacific, killing 4 people on board. The latest strike comes amid bipartisan criticism of a September operation in which a follow-up strike killed survivors from an alleged drug vessel.
It marks the 22nd strike the U.S. has launched against boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific, bringing the death toll to at least 87 since the campaign began in September. The first publicly announced strike in nearly 3 weeks comes as the Pentagon and White House struggle to explain the legal basis for targeting suspected drug smugglers. September 2nd strike, where 2 survivors clinging to wreckage were killed in a follow-on attack, has drawn a bipartisan scrutiny as a possible war crime, with lawmakers pushing for greater oversight. U.S. President Donald Trump has signaled further escalation, saying the military may soon begin striking targets inside Venezuela as part of the offensive against alleged drug traffickers.
This week on Wu Says, we turn our focus to how artificial intelligence has become a key frontier in the global contest for power. The episode also looks at how AI may exacerbate inequality in society. Here's a segment from the conversation between Melissa Idris and Professor Emeritus Dr. Wu Wing Tai.
It would exacerbate inequality even within the United States, the countries of origin of AI. If you were to look at new technology that comes about, they first have monopoly power over the ownership of the assets. And that certainly creates a tremendous amount of income. If you remember, the socialism as a movement came during the Industrial Revolution because some people really got filthy rich while people were just losing their jobs with the new machinery. So the history of the world is that new technology would make redistribution of income to be more concentrated than before. Then society would have to undertake corrective actions. For example, transfer scheme. So the universal basic income that Elon Musk has talked about is a form of, you could say, welfareism that smooths over the pain of loss of jobs. But yes, it is likely that there will be a huge increase in inequality before it gets better. And that increase in inequality comes with massive loss of jobs. So we have to think of the design of social safety nets. Basically, how would Malaysia Madani be reconfigured in order to ensure inclusiveness among the rest, the people in the country.
Catch the full conversation on AWANI International and across our social media platforms.
Now that report concludes AWANI International tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thank you for watching and good night.